Particles can be fun in Godot and simple and cumbersome at the same time, but let's take a look at making a fire with particles. This could be used for a fire, it could be used for a meteor or something along the line, but let's take a look at what we can do with GPU particles. Alright, the first thing we want to do is we want to add a GPU particle 2D. The first thing we're going to see is there's an error or a warning that tells us we need to process material, so we're going to click on New Particle Process Material, and you can see we've already got our particle started. So the first thing we want to do is we want to go to accelerations, gravity, and fire goes up. So in this case we want our particles to go up. I want to do about a 600. So I'm sorry, that needs to be a negative 600. And that's going to get our particles to go up. We want a lot of particles, so I'm going to do about 200. And it looks almost like a straight line right now. The next thing we want to do is we want to go into our spawn, and we want to go to position. And our emission shape, we're going to change that to a sphere. And I'm going to change that to about a 10. And now we're getting our particles spread out a whole bunch. And then the next thing we want to take a look at is I want to go back up to time, and I'm going to make our lifetime 0.5. That gets them a little more under control. And then what we want to do is we want it to kind of cone in at the top. So I want to go down here to radial acceleration, and I'm going to give it a minimum of negative 100. And I want to give it a maximum of negative 40. And you see it's going to start coning it towards the top. Then we want to go into display. I want to look at scale. I'm going to give it a minimum scale of 0.5. I want to give it a maximum scale of 2. That's going to give us some variety. And then the next thing we want to do is I'm going to go into the scale curve. I'm going to add a new curve. Click on the curve. Click here. And then we're going to do this so that they're bigger at the base and better at the top. And then the next thing we'll do is we'll look at color curves. We're going to go to color ramp, and we're just going to create a gradient. And within this gradient, we're going to click on the black bar here, and we're going to make this a red. We're going to click on the white bar, and we're going to make this a kind of charcoal gray. And then we'll just pick a couple of spots in here and maybe make this maybe a little bit of an orange. Click another one here, and let's make it a bit of maybe a yellow. We're going to bring the black here so we get that trailing smoke. And as you can see, we kind of are getting a bit of our fire. Let's go back up to the top, and I wrote 200 instead of 2000. Now that gives us a whole lot better. And so now we've got this kind of basic flame. Now what we can do to kind of give it a little organic life is we want to go down here to turbulence. We're going to turn turbulence on, and you can see we're already getting some effect here. We can play with the scale and kind of get it where we want it to be. And then if you want something that's less pixelated, we can jump up here to trails, and we can turn the trails on, and then this gives us something a little more fluid. And that's just a simple way to make a fire or a meteor.